Well, it's 2010. That means it's time to take a look at the BSW 2010 Sourcebook. That's your source for professional audio and broadcast gear. BSWUSA.com. You can also get a discount on some of that great gear by taking a look at newmediagear.com. Just click the BSW banner to get the coupon and get the savings. BSW, audio gear from people you trust. Well, welcome, Spyder Harrison, to Studio 1A after all this time, Sirius XM on several channels across America, also terrestrial.
And ships at sea.
Ships at sea across the Atlantic. It's at Radio Dublin.
Yeah, different stations doing voiceover. Trinidad, Puerto Rico, and the Republic of Miami.
People have heard you probably for what, 2 or 3 years. You obviously do the end bumper to the show. Nobody else can sound like that except Spyder. It's nice of you to drop in. We're trying out a microphone, of course, as always. And you're on the 416?
Right. With your and you're not getting it back.
Made from moon rocks. It's the very expensive foam windscreen.
$70 or whatever. I said to my wife, why is this so expensive? She goes, well, it's not like it's a sponge. It's like, yeah, I know that. And so it's like some kind of, special technical material. And it's like,
It's magical. Yeah.
It's called foam.
It's foam.
But it is. But one of these days I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, hold on to it for a while.
You're not even using the 416 anymore. You told me you're using that USB mic, right? Oh, what is it?
I'm really all hepped up on this. The Shure, the 42, the PG42. I did an AB with the 416, right. And this one came out on top, I think.
Yeah, but sometimes I hear you send me an AB, and I don't hear that. I don't hear it the same way. So I guess. Yeah. That's pretty much audio for anybody who thinks they're an expert, right. Somebody who does audio for a living. Everybody hears it differently. Well, that's true, and it's the same with anything. It's you've got Ford people and GM people, and they're never going to change. Right. Compression people, non-compression people. I'm sure you get the people saying, "Why do you have your mic compressed, Mark?"
I love compression.
Get over it.
You can never have too much compression. No.
Well, see, again, there's going to be people saying, shaking their head vigorously. No, you're wrong. I'm sure, but hey, each to his own. So
that's the radio thing.
Yeah, on radio and on television.
Yeah, but I'm finding more and more on television. Television is getting kind of mellow.
Really?
Yeah.
Commercials come on.
Yeah,
I can't get the remote fast enough for my wife not screaming at me. Make it lower. Why do you gotta listen so loud? I go, I'm really misrepresenting Dory. She's actually very sweet, and she would not talk like that or act like that. You know that. You've met Dory.
Of course. Your whole family.
And I make them extremely loud when I do them, like for the auto dealers. Right. But that's because we want to get attention, because in a sea of 10 different commercials, especially in radio, the stop sets have gotten longer and longer. You watch television, it's like 4 car commercials in a row for 4 different brands.
Well, I've seen your studio. It looks pretty good, really.
Thank you. It's nice and cozy.
It is. It's got a good feeling to it. It feels like I'm walking into a radio studio, so you did it right.
Well, cool. I'm glad you approve. Even though the furniture is 15 years old and scratched up. Can you see the scratches? No, you can't.
Well, that's why it felt like a radio studio.
No, there was no cigarette residue all over in the foam. That's another thing. Very old school. Now, nobody can smoke in the control room, let alone in the building. But back in the day, every jock was chain smoked. It would go on 24 hours a day. So if you went by some of the foam on the wall, you pass out from it. And everything was yellow.
I remember everything was yellow, and it was always coffee stained. Everybody drank loads of coffee and smoked. And
right. The coffee still goes on. I've spilled a couple cups of coffee into the... I admit to it once, and the engineer in Tampa was absolutely... His mind was blown. He couldn't believe that I called him to admit that I spilled coffee on the console. I really got a free pass because he was so impressed with my honesty. And also the fact that the night guy, although not officially, spilt a beer in the console like a month earlier and fried half the board. So I got a free pass for being honest.
Yeah.
And so we get good old standbys, the RE20s and the SM7s and the old Sennheisers. What were those black ones? The 441s?
The 421 was probably the most famous.
421 that a lot of radio stations use.
There was also the Slim Sennheiser, the one that the Grease Man called the Sennheiserette.
Yeah. Unsavory.
But the MD 421.
Yeah, that was the one. A lot of stations in the mid 70s to the early 80s used those as it was like the RE20 or the SM7. It was a standard.
Right. Yeah, there's really only about 3 or 4 standards,
and you can drop those. You can beat on them. You can hammer them, and they still work. Yeah,
I think you did. I took a look at one of your mics.
My RE20 I gave you. Yeah, that's something rattling around in there, but it still worked.
Hey, that's a cool mic.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this. Why is it like I could never get the sound? I just never got the RE20 or my SM7 to get to work the way I wanted to in my personal studio, but I love the way they would be set up at like Z100 or Y100 here in Miami or at FLZ in Tampa where I worked and, different places that I worked, in the broadcast environment, it's just a totally different mic.
At Z100, you're listening to the off-air signal. You're literally tuned into that frequency. And so you're listening to the final compression on the transmitter. You're listening to the compression and leveling in between the STL, studio to transmitter link, and so you have all of these things working for you. Plus, you've cut down the bandwidth a little bit too. It only goes up to 15 kilohertz. If you were on AM, of course, you only had 5 kilohertz to work with. So the RE20, having all that low end, is okay. But if you put it into the studio, you have to perk it up usually a little bit. The RE20 doesn't go up high, but that's great for AM radio.
See, I remember like in Detroit, I worked at WHYT in Detroit. My program director, Gary Berkowitz, would come in, and we had the old the equalizers, the Uri equalizers, along LA4s as the compressors, which I love. I wish I had some of those right now.
So do I.
It's kind of costly now, right?
I'd take one. Yeah, they're about $2,000.
Yeah, used.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
So, and then we'd have the standard graphic equalizer, and we have to really, we topped off, I top off a lot of high end in my studio, and he would set it for me in the afternoon. He would come in because, if I couldn't cut, I was like the only person who had I had the biggest problem cutting because of my voice.
Right. So, you've got all that low end.
Right. So everybody else sounded real high because of me.
Because, as we know, every mic sounds a little bit different.
Well, just listening to you, it sounds pretty bassy for you.
Really? Okay.
I think it gives you a lot more width.
I don't think anybody else could have, that kind of energy that you do. If somebody listens to the to one of your shows on Sirius XM, I'm sure they would recognize the voice and the style.
I got energy. That sounds like nobody else. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing, but no, I appreciate that. No, I still enjoy what I do. That's what it really comes down to it. I've been doing it so long, and there's so many people because the industry is beating people down. The radio industry with voice hacking and the loss of jobs over the years, and it's beaten so many people down. And let's face it, just having a job for some people is a goal in the industry now, as opposed to, I want to work here. I want to do this. I want to do mornings. Now it's just work. The goal is to make a living for a lot of guys. So the industry is kind of beating people down. It's kind of taking the fun out of it and the joy out of it for a lot of people. But I just decided, I just decided years ago, I'm going to continue to enjoy what I do, no matter what shape or form it is. And if I don't enjoy it, then I better get out. And
that's more than a lot of people can say, is that they enjoy what they do. Spyder, I appreciate you taking time.
Good night, Mark.
All right, Spyder in Spyder Studios. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
And heart out.
Studio 1A Orlando.